Hi, my name is Abby. I am a foster mom here in the state of Texas, and today we are going to talk about going to court as a foster parent. Now, I'm going to caveat this by saying none of the information I share is going to be case specific or child specific. This is just meant to be a general informational help and encouragement to foster parents. It is my passion that we destigmatize foster care in Texas and that we get more well-equipped, knowledgeable, and good foster parents in to help with the influx of children that we have in care. It can be really overwhelming to be a foster parent, or you could have a lot of questions about it. So the goal of my content is to come alongside of you, help you learn more about foster care, who we are and what we do. And even if you're not called to be a foster parent, you can always support foster care ministry. Court is one of those things that can be super overwhelming. If you're anything like me, when I became a foster parent, oh gosh, like 6-7 years ago now, I had never been in a courtroom before. I went to our first placements court hearing. So it was really intimidating, right? Everything from where to park to what to wear to how to act. Like, it was all just new to me. And I feel like if I would have had a video to watch, like, hey, here's what you maybe can expect, it would have been super helpful. So I just want to walk you through a couple of things that I've learned over my time as a foster parent and kind of go from there. So the first thing you might be wondering is, are foster parents required to attend court? The answer is no, you are not required to attend court unless you are subpoenaed to court for some reason, which can happen just depending on the case. But you are encouraged to attend. And the reason I would say that is because while children are in care, you know them and their daily things better than anyone else. You're the one parenting them. So you're there for the ups, the downs, the ins, the outs. And a lot of times, as you get further in a case, the judge, the caseworker, they like to call foster parents in and have them give the court an update as to how the child is doing. Now, of course, there's CASA workers and guardian ad litems and other people that can do that based on what you tell them, but it is still nice to sometimes go and give firsthand knowledge of the child. It's also possible that you go to court like I did today and you just sit in the back and observe, right? Especially early on in a case, that can be the case. You're not needed to come up there, but you might just want to be abreast of what's happening in the case. Sometimes you have more communicative caseworkers, sometimes you have less. We're blessed with an amazing caseworker right now who I know would have filled me in, but I still wanted to show up. I am a stay-at-home foster mom, so I have that luxury, but I was not always a stay-at-home foster mom. Actually, our first 4 years of foster parenting, I was a teacher. So there were lots of court dates that I did miss. I tried to make it to the big influential ones, but I was not always in court. So you're probably wondering, what do I wear? Okay, anytime you go to court, you want to err on the side of dressy. So I find that business clothes work well. This is what I had on today. I had on heels too, but just some dress pants and a nice top. It's still hot here in Texas, so I went sleeveless, and it definitely was stuffy in the courtroom. You might find, and this depends on county, region, state, I'm sure, but a lot of times in Texas, you'll find that there will be a docket and they'll just roll through cases. So just because you were told to be there at 8 o'clock or 10 o'clock or 12 o'clock doesn't mean that that's when your case is going to be heard. So be prepared to sit quietly in the room and listen to a lot of other people deal with what they have to deal with before your case is ever even called. I know it can be really overwhelming to just walk into a courthouse. If you've never been there, especially, there's lots of lawyers, lots of bailiffs, lots of people looking very official. You're gonna see lots of investigators with their badges on, lots of family service workers from the various agencies, and you might feel a little out of place, and that's okay. I always say if your spouse or a trusted friend can go with you, that's not a bad thing. I had another foster parent friend attend today because their child was also having court, so we got to sit there together, and it was just invaluable to know someone else in the room. One other thing I would say is, if you want to remain anonymous to the biological parents of the child you're fostering, my little friend decided that it was time to wake up. So that is your prerogative, it is your choice, but know that they're likely going to be at court and called to the stand, and you might too, or they might recognize the caseworker. So if you're trying to remain anonymous, you might think about going to court, because I feel like it's hard to remain anonymous in that situation. There are definitely cases and children in which that either CPS decides that you have to remain anonymous or it's a safety issue. And of course, I respect that. But I also feel, on the other hand, if it is safe and it is a mutually beneficial thing for you to have a relationship, obviously within the constraints of like visits and caseworker supervision with the bio parents, for them to at least put a face with who is helping them to raise their child during this time, that can be very beneficial to children. But it's something you have to think about and decide ahead of time. And I don't want you to be surprised when you show up and they're there, or they might recognize the caseworker and put 2 and 2 together. Let's see. Oh, the biggest thing I can tell you is do not speak unless spoken to. Do not speak unless spoken to. If anyone wants you to say anything, they will ask you. You might have to raise your right hand and swear in as a witness if you get called to the stand to testify in whatever is going on. A lot of times it's just a status update for the child, how they're doing, anything medical that's going on, anything they need to know. But do not interrupt. Do not interject. Even if the caseworker or the judge or the lawyer says something wrong, it is not your responsibility to fix that, okay? So you just gotta be quiet and be there like fly on the wall status until you're spoken to. It's also really important that you, even though you might have like a strong opinion as a foster parent, if you're asked your opinion, you can share that, but please do it respectfully and recognize that we are here to support reunification of families whenever safe and possible. And your personal opinions in the matter don't matter a lot usually. So bear that in mind. Let's see, it's hard. It can be hard. Foster parenting is not easy, but it's worth it. And I feel like just showing up for these babies and children and loving them and supporting them and knowing their workers and their CASA workers and their guardian ad litem, all of you are a team working together to ensure that this child gets the best care possible. Decisions can be made at court. Decisions can be made at court that change things quickly. In the past, in some of the other cases we've had less than 24 hours after court to pack up a child and have them go home. At worst case, it was at 5 p.m. that day, and we were not expecting it at all. And that can be really challenging. Okay, so I just want to encourage you that if you know anything about foster care, it's that things can change on an instant, and a lot of times things that change happen during those court dates. It's also good to be able to ask your worker questions ahead of time to try to eliminate those surprises. Like you can ask the week of court, like, hey, are we expecting anything to change in court today? And that way you have some time to process with your spouse, your children, your family, and the child if they're old enough to kind of have a grip of what's going on. Most of the time they will not have the children come to court. That changes once children get, old enough to know what's going on, like 10, 12, something like that. Or when they're this tiny of a baby, you can probably just take them in their car seat, but ask your caseworker what is appropriate in that judge's courtroom and that judge's setting. I'm trying to think. This was just sort of an off-the-cuff video because it's fresh on my mind. But those are the main things that I can think of. And the other thing I would close with is it's really important with foster care that you maintain the same level of integrity, like HIPAA almost. Like, it's not your job to go blasting out anywhere information. Obviously, no one expects you to keep secrets from your spouses. Obviously, there's foster parent support groups or other foster parent friends or your counselor. Those are, appropriate people to seek wise counsel from or to just share your heart and your joys and sorrows in foster care. But as far as like answering questions to people, like we don't do that. So if you are friends with a foster parent, you can say like, how did court go today? But expect an answer like, it went well, status quo, continue as normal. Or there might be some changes coming up, but we just don't know. We're gonna be very vague in our answers because that's part of the job. That's part of what we do, is that we're not sharing on social media, even though I might share here about general things that could happen, like with court. I'm not giving case specific details. I'm not showing our baby's face. Like those are all cautions that we take as foster parents to respect the privacy of these children and families. Just because we're choosing to put what we're doing out there doesn't mean that anyone else wants their business out there. So I would end with that. And just to say that If you're a foster parent or thinking about becoming a foster parent and you're not sure, what to expect, I hope this video was helpful. You can always comment with any questions down below. I'm happy to answer as I know best. Once again, the information I shared was likely specific to how my state and county does things. I'm sure it varies across the nation, but I just wanted to give a little insight into what I've noticed or what I've experienced as a foster mom.